Millions of Kenyans have made their choice for their country's next president. 8 candidates competed for the top job, but only President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have any real chance of winning. Now, Kenya has grown more than 5% a year since Kenyatta won the 2013 election. If re-elected, Kenyatta plans to boost investment in infrastructure. Odinga, meanwhile, says he will strengthen the economy by slashing the budget deficit from more than 10% of GDP to 3%. Inflation has accelerated past 10% this year after 2016's drought, though. Prices of maize flour, a staple food, are up more than 50%. Kenyatta wants to ease the burden on Kenyan farmers by reducing the price of fertilizer to boost production. Odinga also says food security is his first priority and plans to restore adequate food supplies. Now, another big issue is corruption. To help tackle it, Kenyatta promises to make payments for public services more transparent. Meanwhile, Odinga pledges to establish a national intelligence service dedicated to corruption surveillance. 11% of Kenyans are unemployed, and for 15 to 24-year-olds, it's double that rate. 800,000 jobs were created last year, but 90% of them were low-paid and informal. Both candidates want to tackle youth unemployment by giving more work experience to graduates. And on top of all of those problems, the economy as a whole appears to be slowing. TRT World's Africa reporter Fidelis is in Nairobi now and joins us now live. Fidelis, great to have you with us. Let's start with Kenyatta. He's promised to boost spending. Raila Odinga appears to be more of a fiscal hawk in terms of reining back expenditure. Whose message is more popular?
Well, for many Kenyans here, the opposition message tends to resonate more in terms of the economy because the opposition camp has been more realistic in terms of addressing the basic needs of the people, especially those, the downtrodden, those who are living below the poverty line. They've been addressing the issue of high cost of rent. They've been talking about getting more jobs for people who are unemployed. They've been talking about ensuring that people who are don't have a roof over their head, actually get accommodation, a decent one at that, so that they'll be able to be comfortable. As for the ruling party, they've been talking more about big projects, what some people here have termed as elite projects, because the president has been emphasizing on the railway projects, some other infrastructure projects. These are big-time investment projects, but for the downtrodden, they are feeling that, look, what we want is the immediate impact on our life. If we can put food on our table, that's what matters most to us, and not all those big projects that they are talking about.
In the run-up to these elections, Fidelis, how have foreign investors been viewing the Kenyan economy?
Well, it's a case of sitting and just watching, more like sitting on the fence, because it's a very tricky one. If you come out openly, especially during this election, to support the incumbent, if for any reason the vote turns out the other way and the opposition manage to get into office, they might actually turn against you, which we've seen the examples of this in recent past in other countries. And so what the investors have been doing mostly is just observing what's going on, not really declaring their support for any of the candidates. And hopefully, if things turn out well, whoever wins, or whoever, if the president is re-elected, or if the opposition takes it, they will definitely warm up to that person, because all that matters to the investors is how to place their money and to ensure that their investments are safe.
I suppose in the run-up to the election, that would seem like a wise strategy, considering that it seems to be pretty close between the two candidates. China, let's talk about China a little bit now, is playing an increasingly important role in many African countries. In Kenya, it's built an important new railway. How has Kenyatta leveraged on China's investments into Kenya?
Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been more like trying to drum up support for his candidacy based mostly on some of the big infrastructure projects that were financed by the Chinese, like the railway project, like some other infrastructure projects, big time investment, because China has invested heavily in this country. So that has been one of the focal points of his campaigns. He's been telling people how he's been able to attract a lot of billions of dollars in investment into the country. And he's which was why he was asking for re-election, so that he can continue with that.
Right. Okay, Fidelis and Bar in Nairobi, thank you ever so much.